I think if you're on a higher budget production, the need for raw recording is actually less, because you might have professional dedicated people to work on your footage and actually manipulate it to the point that the production or the director or the DOP want to.
This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Welcome to episode 86 of CineD Focus Check. My name is Nino.
I'm Johnny. Nino, how are you?
I'm good, and let's get going because we don't have too much time today. Today we'll talk about a tripod review that I did for the K&F Concept video tripod VA3 and BV20, and I took a close look at this because it's really, really affordable, and I just wanted to find out if we can finally have tripods that don't cost us an arm and a leg and still are good. We'll also talk about a poll that you prepared about internal RAW recording in cameras. If people want this, need this, if it's a necessity.
If it's a hype or if it's a real necessity.
Exactly. We'll also dive into the camera intelligence Caira camera. Now, this is an interesting one because I reached out to the founder to clarify a couple of things, because he was also the guy behind the Alice camera, and that was a Kickstarter like 5 years ago, or Indiegogo campaign 5 years ago. And there were still a lot of questions we had around this, a bit of a skepticism here, and he did really reply in detail, and I want to dive into that. We'll talk about the new Elgato Prompter XL. We want to highlight this because we actually use the normal Elgato Prompter quite a bit, and now they came out with a larger version. We'll also talk about the Tilta Extended Pro monitor mount, which is very interesting, comes with a double-hinge height adjustment and SmallHD-Compatible pins. We'll talk about the new TTArtisan 17mm f4 tilt shift lens, which is also covering full frame and GFX. And as many of you might know, especially in the photography field actually, but also filmmakers, there's a real lack of tilt shift lenses out there right now that cover large sensors. And we'll talk about our ASUS ProArt monitor guide, which is for creative professionals and everyday work. I mean, we kind of gave an overview of their monitors because we've just been testing a lot of them here. We'll talk about a small update for the Blackmagic camera app for iOS, the Blazar Beetle lenses, which are now shipping, the ultra-compact 1.33x full-frame anamorphic lenses. And last but not least, also the SmallRig advanced camera cage kit for the Nikon ZR that you have been using on the review that you're currently working on. But let's start with your poll.
Yeah. So, guys, we all kind of have love and hate relationship with internal RAW video recording. And this is actually a very interesting topic for me personally, because I think sometimes we think that internal codec is strong enough and good enough to record and later on manipulate in post-production. But I have to say, and that's what drove me to write this poll and ask your opinion. I'm very interested to hear more from you guys. Now, after working with the EOS C50, the Canon EOS C50 and the Nikon ZR, I'm actually working more and more with raw video files. That also led me to think, in a very funny way, but that's my reality. I think if you're on a higher budget production, the need for raw recording is actually less, because you might have professional dedicated people to work on your footage and actually manipulate it to the point that the production or the director or the DOP want to.
On set.
On set, but also afterwards. Now, for us, being independent filmmakers, that so many times we are the one to film, we are the one to edit, and so on. Of course, we always try our best to expose correctly, to have the right white balance correctly when we are filming. But when we come to the editing, we can see many times that we have to make adjustments. Now, when we have internal raw recording, those adjustments are simply a breeze. It's not we are not sacrificing image quality when we're working with those internal raw video files. That's why I decided to write this poll. I'm very, very interested to know what you guys thinking, if internal raw recording for video is just a hype or important for the workflow. For me personally, this is becoming essential. And of course, the price is very large files in many cases, but also because the price for those big capacity CF Express cards is literally going down. Maybe this is less of an issue. But how is it for you, Nino? Because you're also filming and editing your footage.
Sometimes, if I have to. But I mean, it depends on the production, of course. I think and I'm not talking about your mini documentaries or something which is a very contained kind of thing, but shooting a normal TV documentary, you acquire so much footage that I think it would be very impractical to shoot everything in RAW.
But again, you just said the keyword TV production. And in TV production, many times you have dedicated professional people to edit. You know what I mean? And they have big or large editing suites and so on. It's easier to manipulate the footage.
There's very little time usually especially for TV turnarounds to do color grading. That's always a bit of an afterthought.
That's also true.
So, like even if you usually shoot log, but there is they basically apply a lot and then do normal basic. Well, they always do a grading and apply a lot, but they will do basic, brightness adjustments and stuff like that, but not a detailed grading. So I don't think that a lot of those productions would benefit from RAW. But of course, I think for me personally, I think it would be great, of course, to have the option in camera, because if you shoot something that is a smaller project where you are in control, or if it's a commercial or something like that, of course, it would be great. And now that we see it's coming into more and more cameras, it kind of makes me question, would I still buy a camera that doesn't have it internally? I think for me, the answer would be no, because I think it's just something that I would expect for a modern camera to have, even if it's a less expensive camera. And we know that not all the manufacturers are there yet, but I hope this, within the next 1 or 2 years, it's just going to be a standard feature. But it's not a feature I would use on everything that I shoot, because it's just simply impractical.
Not everything, but again, I think it's a great safety net. When you're working on your own production, you need the safety net and the flexibility to manipulate your footage. Internal RAW recording will, the reason I'm saying internal RAW recording, of course, we have external with HDMI into dedicated monitors, but me personally, I like to work with as less as possible equipment in the field, and that's why the internal RAW recording is very practical for me.
Yeah, let's see how the poll comes out next week, and we'll talk about that again.
Okay.
Well, let's dive into a written review that I did on this tripod. That's the KNF Concept video tripod. Now, some of you guys might know KNF Concept as a company that does a lot of filters and stuff like that. They do very good NDs, for example, variable NDs and fixed NDs and stuff like that.
They do everything. I have a
They do a lot of different stuff, yeah. But I think that is probably what they're best known for. And when we saw a tripod that they kind of brought out, one of many actually, that is priced at $200?
$184 in Amazon.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, the standard price is $199, but the I checked, what it looked like and the features, and I was like, well, actually, this might be worth looking at, simply just to see how far we've come. We know that there is a huge, in the past, the tripod was always the one thing where we actually needed to spend a lot of money on to get good quality. And it was there were quite a few brands, many of which, of course, under the same umbrella, under the Videndum, which owns Manfrotto, Sachtler, Vinton, O'Connor, Gizzo. So a lot of those actually come from the same family.
You said Manfrotto, yeah? And
Manfrotto was the first one I said. And of course, great tripods, but not all of them very affordable. Then Sachtler started with, and Vinton actually first with the Ace series, with the Sachtler Ace, which was 10 years ago, the first really €400 kind of tripod that you could actually use as a video professional.
Company.
Yeah, but even at that time, there were not so many Asian companies actually making tripods. And now we have the Manfrotto One, which is also very good tripod concept, and the Flowtag from Sachtler and Vintner. Of course, great ideas. They work really well.
Different segments,
but still some of them are quite pricey and much less than they used to be. but you still, like if you want a decent tripod, you're still kind of close to $1,000 or euros. It's like 800-900. This is what you need to spend if you want a full kit from those brands.
Well, maybe
from those brands.
Okay,
and from those brands and kind of the traditional brands essentially. And there's of course a few others like Miller and so on, which are kind of the same, like I wouldn't say expensive, but like mid-range tripods. But as cameras have come down in price and there's a lot of accessories have come down in price, I think it's gotten a lot more difficult to justify the expense on something purely mechanical as a tripod, for especially when we are talking about that more and more people use more than one camera on a production, right? You don't want to spend that kind of money three times basically if you use 3 cameras, which is very normal now for, one operator, 3 cameras for like a sit down conversation kind of thing. It's very normal now. And so you're looking for your B camera, for your C camera as something more affordable that is not just a photo tripod that you cannot pan and tilt. You want something that works for video, might not have all the bells and whistles of the big ones, might not be as light as the one that you use every day, but might be one that you can use for good pans and tilts and so on. So this is why, I'm interested in more affordable ones also that, again, not your main tripod, maybe your B tripod, and came across this and it looked very much like very similar to the design that Manfrotto would do in terms of how the drag works and all that. And I have to say I'm impressed. I mean, it is not a light tripod. This is close to 5 kilograms.
Can we let's separate between the legs and the head
Sure.
So first of all, the most important part, like with any other tripod, is the head. Were you impressed in the sense of
depends
fluidity?
if the legs slide. The legs are more important in my opinion, but yeah.
Fine. For me, it's first of all about the movement. Like as you said, pen and tilt. But how did you feel that this head is working for you?
I think it's if you're used to Manfrotto heads and kind of these stepless adjustments of drag, it's fine. Like it works quite well. For example, on the tilt here. I mean, this is, the one thing that you pointed out to me that didn't really disturb me is the fact that you have to actually lock it on the right-hand side and unlock it.
Made me crazy.
And you have to change the drag on the left-hand side. Yeah, it probably should be on the same side, but honestly, I think when I was using it, it didn't disturb me too much because it's not that I lock it all the time. Like if it's properly balanced, it will not actually move if you change the drag. So, so this is fine. I mean, the downside is you never know exactly where you are with these types of designs, but that's also for people who are used to Manfrotto heads, it's the same kind of thing. You don't know where it's set if you just look at it like this here. Like you literally need to touch it and move it because you don't have the steps. I'm more used to the Sachtler design of the steps basically. But if you like that concept, it works really well because you can adjust it from close to 0 to 10. I think it takes up to 10 kilograms. You wouldn't put a 10 kilogram camera on this, but you can put a mid-sized camera on this. I think, this camera here is quite small. I just put it just for show basically. But
for illustration purposes.
But a camera that would do quite well on this is something like an FX6, even with accessories. Like that's fine, and you would get proper balance on this. Now you cannot completely unlock the balance, like you have zero resistance kind of thing, but that's part of that design, and it's fine. Like actually for somebody who's not used to that, you might not miss it because it's also there's a danger to have it set to 0 and it just tips over.
Okay, so you were quite impressed with the fluidity of the...
Yeah, that was the tilt, and the pan is even better, I think, because you have to turn this quite a bit here in order to change the drag. And the downside being that you don't see where you are. On the other hand, you can really finely adjust it. And I think the pan is actually something you need a lot more than the tilt quite often. And the adjustment of that is much finer. And the positioning of the lock here at the back is also better. Now, if you look at the bubble, like I wish it was illuminated. It's not, but that's of course a component that they can ditch at this price because you don't need a battery, you don't need a replacement thing, so that's fine. You also have a very nice
this is actually very nice. The way to accommodate two types of plates here. This is something which I was not aware of. Is that the first time that you also saw it?
No, we've seen it on a Sirui tripod that I've reviewed and some others, but it's not. First of all, it's a side load, which I love. I mean, it takes those Sachtler/Manfrotto style plates, and you just side load them. I always like this principle. And you can change, you have a little switch in there, and you can change to an RS2, RS3, RS4 plate. That's the plate
so
that
then
DJI
you can easily
uses.
move the camera from the gimbal itself to the tripod.
Exactly.
Very nice.
And that's just a little switch in here. And I think that's become really great because, I mean, in the past we've seen, I've had this problem many times when I go from gimbal to a Sachtler active head, for example. You can't actually use the same plate. The problem is it will actually kind of fit and you can kind of screw it in, but it's not safe.
Yeah, kind of is not good enough.
A lot of people actually put it there and try to lock it down, but it's not really locked down.
Okay.
That's why some manufacturers like KNF Concept actually introduced this little switch, and I think this should be commonplace. I mean, honestly, DJI should just use the standard one. Then we wouldn't need to have that.
Standard,
but that's the way it is.
What is a standard today? I mean, you can say, where's the Arca Swiss version of this? So it's very difficult to come up with a standard.
What's also nice, you have parking positions for replacement screws, different size, of course, but also an Allen key here, and this Allen key. With this Allen key, you can adjust various things on the legs. Also, you have different size. You like a 1/4 inch mounting, 3/8 of an inch mounting position here. So yeah, I think the head is it's not the best head in the world, but I don't expect this at this price point. But it's very solid for what it does, and like you said, the most important thing is you can get very fluid movements with it.
And now, what about the legs? Because when I lifted it, I felt that my back is shouting.
It's heavy. Yeah, it is a heavy tripod. That's why I'm also saying I would not use this as my main tripod, but this is something that can just stay in the car essentially and be your B camera tripod. The good thing is it's very solid at any position, right? So that's the most important thing. It's not slipping. It's not making any noises. It has 2 lever stages. So that's the downside. You actually have to move down at the bottom, and then you have one here in the middle. So it's not like a 1 lever kind of design. It's aluminum. So that makes it a little bit heavier than the carbon fiber ones that we've gotten used to.
How about the spreaders? I mean, easy to disattach them if you want to go very low?
No, that's a downside. You have a mid-level spreader that is attached with Allen key. So you need an Allen key you would not remove that. That also means that the lowest position a tripod can go with a spreader is 90 centimeters. And that's not so low.
Okay.
That's not very low. Yeah, that's one downside, of course. But again, for a normal interview tripod, it's fine. But the cool thing is it goes up really high. I think it's almost 2 meters or something.
Yeah,
it's
so
very
190
high.
something.
Yeah, it's very, very high, which is good. So I guess for some event stuff, if you do press conferences or something like that, or film events, it's fine. If you film interviews, it's fine. Again, as a B tripod, absolutely.
And all for 184. You know what? $199.
Yeah, including the head. So that's it impressed me. But again, it's not the best tripod in the world, but for the money, you can get solid, and that's the most important thing. It stands very solidly, and you can get very cinematic movement with the head. Those are the 2 things. Other things, it's heavy. It can't go as low and all the other things, but 200. I mean, it's very. What can you complain about? I actually, when I showed this to Florian at the office and I just made him guess what it costs, the first thing he said was something like 350 or 400. And he was very surprised to hear that it's 200. So I think that's the immediate.
Just one thing to take from your review, again, also in this field of tripods, first, there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of copy-paste.
Yeah.
But also the prices are really going down. So it's quite amazing. We've seen this with lights. We've seen this with audio components. And now also, of course, the competition is very strong when it comes to tripods.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to check out my review, it's on the website. It's a written review, but quite detailed. So just dive in if you're interested in this tripod with a lot of photos also to illustrate what I just talked about. And let's move on to something we reported about, the newly announced camera intelligence Caira. Now, what is that? So,
but that looks familiar.
Yeah, we were a little bit skeptical, which is why we didn't immediately report about this. So a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, there was a camera called the Alice camera that was
Rings a bell.
on Indiegogo. I also, at the time, did a video interview, which is still on the site, with the founder, Vishal Kumar. It's a UK-based startup. And the whole idea was to combine a camera attachment with your phone and then have all the camera controls in the phone, but actually you're able to attach a
Micro Four Third lens.
Micro Four Third lens to the camera unit, but the kind of logic of everything would happen in an app at the back of it. Now, the thing actually shipped. It took them a while. It was delayed, but it did ship, and I think only last year, I think it shipped, and the Alice camera got into hands of a lot of backers. And then, or maybe it was 2 years ago actually, and then at some point the brand Alice camera wasn't talked about anymore, and then we started getting press releases from a company called Camera Intelligence with the same guy behind it, and
that's where we got a bit skeptical.
We were a little bit skeptical that they announced something which was called a new. I mean, at the beginning they didn't say it's a new camera, but then the more recent announcement was that there's a new camera called Caira, which looks almost identical or very similar to the Alice camera, but the name Alice camera was nowhere to be found anymore. And the company was renamed to Camera Intelligence, and also announced that they got a funding, like they closed a seed funding round and got $1.7 million, I think.
Just because, again, I think many of our audience, including me, it took me some time to understand what, and that's not what it does exactly, because this is not a cheap thing. At least the Alice is still selling at B&H. It says it's in stock for $1,245. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe just to elaborate, and
we dived a little bit into this the whole thing. Like I was trying to find out. I reached out to Vishal Kumar and asked a couple of questions. And to his credit, I have to say he very quickly answered and addressed all of those questions. So first of all, I asked, and all of this is part of this article that you can read, right? I asked that a lot of people actually, or a few people actually, have reached out to us, and we also saw on some forums and even on the Indiegogo comments page of the Alice camera project that they still haven't received their camera to this date. Now, he replied that they have faced a number of challenges, and a lot of them had kind of knock-on effects on others. So they understand the frustration of backers who didn't get it, but one of the challenges they had was that there are different consumer electronics clearance regulations in different countries. So they launched a campaign in 2021, offered worldwide shipping without fully anticipating that there are really distinct logistical and compliance hurdles in different regions. So for example, if there's, especially when things that come to are referred to Wi-Fi enabled electronic devices with built-in lithium-ion powered batteries. There's limitations around that in different countries. So basically, that's one of the things I asked him. Right? Why is it listed as in stock in B&H when you still have some backers that haven't received the camera? And he said that the ability to ship the camera in, especially the UK, for example, is still handicapped by a trademark dispute in the UK. So the legal proceedings resulted in restrictions that impacted our business for the last 12 months. And we have communicated directly with our UK backers regarding those challenges and are working for a solution with our UK customers in accordance with legal guidelines. So apparently, because of some trademark issue, the UK customers, kind of his home turf, they still haven't received the cameras. So he says those are the ones that actually haven't received.
And again, you're talking about the Alice camera.
That's all the Alice camera.
The previous one, and I'm sorry, I have to cut here and just explain again. Because when you look at the images and what it does, it's literally using your mobile phone as the control panel, let's say, for the camera. And the camera itself is a self-bodied camera with a micro four third bayonet, and you can put micro four thirds lenses on it. So it's literally a camera which is connected to your mobile phone, and you're not using your mobile phone lenses for that, but only the interface, basically. Oh, okay, now it's a bit clearer.
I mean, of course, I have to say, like 5 years ago, I got excited about the concept. Now, 5 years later, cameras in phones have become so much better that for me, the whole thing becomes a little bit questionable, especially you mentioned the price. And for the price they are asking for, you could buy an entry-level camera. Absolutely, with interchangeable lenses. So it's a bit questionable. Why wouldn't you use a dedicated camera for that? Also, now the second generation, the Caira, I mean, that's what he explained. Why is it now called different? He said it's basically a second generation of the Alice camera.
Okay, and that's what we asked basically. We wanted to dive and to understand and to know if this is the same thing, just rebranded by the same person.
He said it's a new hardware, and it's the design. So now they have changed. The original one was compatible with iPhones and Android phones. And now they've moved to a MagSafe compatible connector. So basically it's iOS only. And he says it's a more secure and quicker mounting experience. And the design shift also allowed them to make it 20% lighter and thinner with a deeper handle and so on.
But do we know if they solved the patent issues or the trademarks or whatever?
I guess,
because,
if he refers to, he didn't, if he referred to a trademark issue, maybe that was related to the fact that they renamed the entire company. I don't know, and the whole product. So we don't know. He said in total, by the way, just to complete the thing, he says here they have around 20% left to fulfill of open orders. So let's see how they do that. And they are committed to fulfilling all remaining orders, but didn't say when. Now, the main thing that kind of raised a few eyebrows here is that they also said that they are the first camera in the world to integrate Google's Nano Banana, like the Gemini. It's kind of a nickname for the Gemini, 2.5 flash model that was introduced a couple weeks ago, which is doing quite, is quite popular with image generation.
Manipulating the image, basically,
exactly.
Photos.
And when he says integrated into the camera, I'm a little bit I'm very skeptical actually, because there is no on-device model of this yet, right? So it means this requires an internet connection, and of course it's not in camera per se. That's what I asked him. It's like it's using. I asked him, are you using Google's API and just connecting? Because there is an API. We see a lot of different models on different systems on the internet now integrating. Even Photoshop, the latest Photoshop beta has this Nano Banana built in. So they're doing the same thing. So basically, it's running inside their app. They're using the API. The probably Caira app will just have it integrated, and it's basically sending your picture to Google
via mobile phone. I mean, because you are connected via your mobile phone, so you are able to do this.
Of course, it's just using the internet connection of your phone and then just sending it to Google and doing modifications. I mean, they showed some. So basically, you can take a photo. He showed an example here of a woman not wearing a necklace, and then you can just say, well, add a necklace. I mean, you can do that with any photo on your phone now using this model from Google, using the Gemini app as well. You don't need the Caira camera. And I mean, it's a bit of I think it's a bit, false packaging, to be honest, because he says it's integrated into the camera. I saw some comments on this, which I completely agree with. If Google ever decides to pull that feature, it's just going to be gone. You're not paying for that feature. If you buy the Caira camera, you're basically dependent on having this available through Google. So there's still a lot of question marks around the whole project, and of course they're riding on the whole AI wave when it comes to securing funding and stuff like that. So the question is, how much AI is really integrated in the actual camera, or is it just in general kind of dependent on external stuff? I mean, he offered to send us a review unit once it becomes available. We can think about reviewing it actually, because I think some people might be interested in that.
Yeah.
Again,
for the sake of transparency, the CEO was very open.
Absolutely, and it was very fast to reply.
Very fast to reply.
Yeah.
But if you guys decide to back up this project, just do your homework. See if this is something. Check the Alice camera before. See some comments. It's not a very, very different product.
Yeah.
So just do your homework before you decide to back up this specific project.
And he said that this time they say that tooling is complete and they're much more ready to produce. Let's see if it's true. And actually ship. I think they're planning to ship. Let me say, I think in the beginning of 26 or something like that. But check the website for yourself if you're interested. All right, moving on to the Elgato Prompter XL. Now, this is a product we wanted to highlight because, I mean, Elgato is not a very common name in filmmaking, I think, because they're really from the gaming industry.
Well, the company was acquired by a bigger gaming like Crosshair, which is very well known for...
Corsair, yeah. They are... Yeah, they're big in gaming. And I mean, we actually use their podcasting arms here. They are Elgato because we swapped the Rode ones to these ones. And because we like the low profile better. But, you know, but they have a product that we've been using quite a lot. We haven't reviewed it. We probably should. But their original prompter is quite nice. It's quite small. That's the downside. But it is connected to your computer via USB-C. As a display port, and then they have a dedicated app. And the cool thing,
camera hub software. This is the one that actually makes the difference. The one that actually you can talk and read, and it moves with you.
It has a voice recognition, and it works quite well. So basically, it uses you can use any microphone. But if you have your laptop standing there, so if you watch any of our reviews, we've been using this a lot over the last year or so. And when we write our reviews out, we tend to use this teleprompter now. So now they brought out an XL version. So
great. Maybe that's really something for me, because if it's with contact lenses and when it's too close, it's hard to read. If it's too far, of course it's hard to read. But maybe this XL version might work. Hey, especially for me.
It's 15.6 inch. Nice. So that's, I think the original one was what, 7 inch, 5 inch, 9? 9 inches? Okay, 9 inches. So it's quite a bit larger. It works quite well. And I just, like you said, I think it's the software that makes the difference here. That makes it like a really cool product. And again, I think this is probably the gaming market is much bigger than the filmmaking market in general. But this is...
Yeah, it's nice that they didn't kill the brand and they actually still keep producing stuff for the filming industry. And this is what, 600?
Yeah, I mean, this acquisition was 5 years ago. So
but
it's like,
still, I mean, you know what's happening. So many times the acquisition, you just kill a company. But the price for this one will start, $600 euro or dollars.
Yeah, it's it's not the cheapest. I mean, there are more affordable teleprompters out there. But take a look. It is definitely worth checking out simply because we like the software and just the integration. Because a lot of those... I mean, in the past, I used to use like a basic contraption. I think it was called the pad prompter. So you had your iPad in there, but you had to buy a separate. You could buy any kind of iPad app for that, and it's good to have like an integrated system, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a very good software. Just if you need a teleprompter. All right, moving on to some small gear news. So Tilta announced an extended Pro monitor mount that is quite interesting, actually. So if you look at that, it has 2 hinges and it allows you to adjust the position of a monitor much more easily than a standard ball mount, I would say. That looks very interesting to me. It's it's nothing earth-shattering, but I think if you've seen a lot of the solutions in this field, I often find they're either too low, kind of too close to the camera, or too inflexible. Or too flexible, like ball mounts very often, if they unscrew, you can just twist it in the wrong direction. Having this double-hinge version is quite nice. And this model mounts via a NATO rail, which of course makes it very flexible to put on different cages and stuff like that. So somebody pointed out it doesn't seem to be available in the US yet. We reached out to Zacuto, and this should be fixed by the time you actually watch this. Let's move on to a new lens, the TTArtisan 17mm tilt shift lens. Now, tilt shift lenses seem to be something that are a bit hard to get hold of in mirrorless times. I mean, a lot of the tilt shift lenses out there are still, with an EF mount or different mounts that have to be adapted to mirrorless, many of which also don't actually cover large sensors. And this one actually covers full frame and even a GFX sensor from the Fujifilm GFX 102 and, of course, the upcoming Eterna. So why tilt shift lenses, as you might know, are known for their effect. I mean, they're really effect lenses in a way. Because on one hand, there's the tilt effect and also the shift effect. The tilt effect can kind of produce straight images of buildings, which are impossible to make with a normal lens. And the tilt shift, the shift effect actually can kind of make this fake miniature look, if you will, if you're looking down on streets and stuff like that. But the main thing is, of course, for architecture, just making these distortion of those smaller sensors, kind of avoiding them and making them straight.
But it's nice, but this is actually for GFX cameras. That means it's really for large sensor cameras.
I think we'll see a lot more lenses coming out soon in general, because of course now that Fujifilm is going into the cinema direction with the GFX Eterna, everybody wants to make sure their lenses are covering that full large format sensor. So that's quite nice. Yeah, TTArtisan, where are they based?
China, it's all China.
Okay. That lens, I don't. Oh, it's quite cheap actually, $509. That's incredible.
Well, some of the Chinese companies do produce high quality and are very modestly priced packages.
I mean, this image is a very good example of what it can do, right? It's like you can compare what a traditional 17mm lens would make a photo of, and then with this effect, it's quite nice. Good. Moving on to a ASUS ProArt monitor guide, which you.
Yeah, so here in the office we're working quite a lot with ASUS monitors from different reasons. But we really like the monitors, and the quality is fine. Also for the price in general. This time we just took a few monitors that we have in the office, and we try to segment them in the sense of letting our staff member, including us, to comment about those monitors and kind of put it into perspective, like where they belong. So I will run really very quick. We had like 5 monitors here in this guide, and starting with the 4K almost 32 inch. This is the one which is ultimately Gunther was, Gunther, our colleague, reviewed this already. Really like it for editing stuff. And since this is an OLED monitor, the picture coming out of it, or in other words, when you try to work with it, it's very color accurate, and the picture is very, very nice. So if you're looking for something to edit and looking for color accuracy, this 4K, and I don't want to mention all those model numbers because they're really difficult. I don't think people will benefit if I say PA32U CDM. Yeah, I will skip the models, but look at this gear guide, and then you will see the 4K HDR monitor. It's also, the refresh rate is really high, it's 240.
But there's also a 6K 32-inch version.
So the 6K, we will publish the review by the time that you see the podcast. The review should be out, hopefully, and if not, early next week. This is not an OLED display, and in so many ways, we gave also Gunther to check this one and to review it, and in all honesty, he likes this a bit less. So the resolution,
really? Even though the higher resolution,
the resolution is higher, but this is a IPS LED backlight panel. So I think when you look at that, and you don't have to compare it with the 4K version, it looks fine. There's nothing wrong with it, and you're probably going to like it a lot. But in the minute that you put it next to the 4K OLED monitor, it's a bit of a night and day. And there is Let me just check quickly what is the price differences. The 6K is about $1,400, and the 4K is $1,900. So if you do have the budget and you want something a bit better for your editing, we really recommend to go with the 4K. It absolutely makes sense.
Okay, and just few of the others you mentioned is a 27-inch 5K.
Yeah, the two 27-inch monitors. One is 5K and the other one is 4K.
So that could be actually the 5K 27-inch is the perfect replacement if you are still an owner of a 27-inch iMac that has been discontinued a couple of years ago. I love that iMac.
Yeah.
I love that screen. And for a long time, there was no way of purchasing a screen at that size, at that resolution. And that's exactly what this is.
It is. And actually, again, maybe that's not a perfect monitor for editing, but we concluded that it's actually a very good monitor for overall office work and occasional editing. Yeah, so this is something, if you need something for like an all-arounder, that will do well. And also for the price, this is below, it's $850. This is a good price, and this is really the better one. If you're looking for something which is more comfortably priced for editing, is the 4K HDR monitor. That will set you back for 950.
And that's 160 hertz, so it's good for gaming also.
That's right. That's right. And of course, I also kind of insisted to include in this gear guide my favorite one, which is a 16-inch monitor. It's great for when you're out and about and you need another screen for monitoring your footage or do some light color grading. This is the one that I've been using, the 16-inch. I have a much more about this monitor in another gear guide that we made, What's in My Bag. You can read about it over there.
All right, perfect. So that's this ASUS ProArt monitor gear guide. So you could just get an overview of these monitors. Let's move on to just a quick mention of the Blackmagic camera app. Got an update for iOS, the iOS version, not the Android version, but the iOS version 2.3.1.2. And now it supports the 1920 by 1440 open gate, which of course, comes with the new iPhones. And polishes a couple of the features that were released before. Nothing earth-shattering, but basically the 3.1 update that came before, gave us access to ProRes RAW, Apple Lock 2, and also some more advanced control and enhanced some of the usability for the iPhone 17 Pro. So, you need to, if you have a nice iPhone 17 Pro and reinstall everything, it's probably going to download the latest version anyway. But now you have all the access to ProRes RAW also with...
Also OpenGate you can do with this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Just a question for you guys. Are you using this software or this app? Because I'm yet to find anybody who's actively using the app.
Well, it depends what you do. If you use the iPhone professionally to film, I think...
Yeah, because when you install the app and you take manual control, that already means that you need kind of a cage, you need an ND filter and so on. You kind of move to a different territory altogether. Yeah, if you want to keep shutter speed locked on whatever. That's why I'm very interested to know if you guys... First, if you really, that's a nice poll. Also, poll to ask. I
honestly don't know if our crowd are the ones to ask that, because we are filmmaking professionals that usually work with other cameras. But I think in general, it's being used quite a lot because you just see the statistics on the App Store. It's a very, very popular app. It's in the video app.
To download is one thing, of course, but to use it, are you using it? That's what I would like to know.
Anyway, So this is just a small update. And last but not least, let's mention the Blazar Beetle lenses.
Well, not last but not least, because we still have the Nikon cage, but the SmallRig cage. But quickly about the Blazar Beetle, those lenses have been kind of exposed to the market more than half a year ago. It took Blazar some time to bring them up, finally for selling. I think the main thing to remember, those are the first lenses. They're very small. They're really compact. Those are the first one that you can literally keep the lens and twist the camera. You have to press a knob on the lens itself, and then you can also shoot not only horizontally but vertically, which for photography or even social media, I think it's a very nice thing. If you decide to buy those lenses, remember that there is a fixed aperture. You cannot change the
Oh,
aperture.
really?
Yeah, it's a T3.2 aperture. I actually like it. I think it's a great balance between, I want to believe that optically speaking, that's the best you can get with those lenses on T3.2. So it's not too soft and not too sharp, let's say, in a way. And then, of course, you will have to purchase an ND filter, a variable ND filter, in order to control the amount of light that goes in. But what really compensates on this limitation is the size of those lenses. It's very, very small. And it's only 133 squeeze, but like with many other lenses from Blazar, they say that it will give a look of 1.5 x. So hopefully we can test those soon. But I like the idea. I think Blazar is a company that really try to innovate, and it's a nice addition to what they do.
Cool. Last but not least, now finally, the SmallRig Nikon ZR cage quickly.
Yeah, so sorry guys again for the delay. There are some things that we're still debating, and we have to clarify either with Nikon or especially about the recording formats and so on. But just to the point of this cage, personally, I don't think that the Nikon ZR is a camera that you can work with without a cage. It's simply too thin to hold and very uncomfortable. You need a cage, period. And the SmallRig cage is a perfect example how to turn the camera into something which is very easy, very comfortable to hold. And I really like it. Of course, there's some downsides. One, you have those little knobs to secure the USB-C or micro HD ports. Like if you put inside, and that's what I needed, the micro HDMI to an external viewfinder. Those are very easy to lose, and they really come out quite easy, and then it's easy to lose them. That's one thing. And sometimes it's not so easy to take the battery from the camera out. Other than that, I think this is a very, very usable cage, and it's not an overdoing. It gives a lot of points, attachment points, and it really makes the camera, for $170, I think you literally elevate the whole user experience of the camera.
Nice. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more from us. A lot of reviews coming. We're working on a lot of content, and probably next week we'll have a lot more to talk about, actually.
Thank you, Nino.
And thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Leave us a comment. Email us at podcast@cined.com, and see you here next week.
Bye.